Welcome to Beyond the Competition, the FSAE University Programs Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We hope you're enjoying the conversations on Beyond the Competition that we bring in to you ever since our relaunch here. This month, we are bringing you a conversation about women in motorsports from Formula EV in June of 2024, and we hope you will enjoy this discussion. Check it out.
This is going to be a quick introduction to Women in Motorsports North America that Stacy Puckett is here from, and I believe Alba and I both are on the working group. So if you have questions about this after, we'll open it up for Q&A, but we're also very involved, so we're happy to keep in touch whenever you guys need to reach out.
We are about advocating for women in all areas of motorsports.
Not just in the car, but as engineers, as mechanics, as anything you can think of.
And that's one of the cool things about this organization, that you get to see those examples.
I want to show little girls we can do the same thing that the guys can do.
We can get exposure from Mobile One and others. They're going to want to aspire to have an opportunity.
All right, woo! Just give him a round of applause for that. I get goosebumps every time I watch that video, so I have to just have a moment here for a second. So, good morning. My name is Lisa Tipton, and I am the Senior HR Manager for Bosch North America, and have the partnership with SAE. I've been with the company for just over 6.5 years, and I have the privilege to be on stage with all these wonderful women that are in the industry. So thank you for all that you've come. This is the first time that we've ever done something like this, but we really appreciate your support. And this is going to be a very casual session. So we're going to start off just by introductions, and so you can get to know every panelist a little bit more. And then we're going to get into some questions and just talk about our careers, you know, what inspires us in our work. And then we'll turn it over to the audience. So we'll allow you to also ask individual questions, or you can ask of the whole panel. It's up to you. So, and just as a spoiler alert, there is swag available. So think of all your questions ahead of time, because you might win valuable prizes. So with that, you can see the slide in everybody's titles. Brooke, if you want to go ahead and start and just introduce yourself and what you're doing currently in your career, and then we'll just pass the mic down the row.
Hello, I'm Brooke Bond, and I am the operations lead for the motorsport team at Bosch.
Hi everybody, my name is Vismita, and I'm a senior systems engineer in the Power Solutions business unit at Bosch Farmington Hills. We work on electrification, advanced mobility type topics, and also energy systems, so think hydrogen and battery type topics.
My name is Susanna Pangofson, and I'm a senior technical recruiter for PACCAR. I'm specifically based at the PACCAR Technical Center in Mount Vernon, Washington State. I do a lot of recruiting for our global engine and advanced technology teams.
I'm Sophie Sabota. I'm the Battery Electric Vehicle Hill Integration Supervisor at the PACCAR Technical Center, Mount Vernon, Washington.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alba Colon, and I am the Director of Technical Partnerships and Competition Systems at Hendrick Motorsports. I want to say thank you to Bosch and to SAE for allowing us to be here today and to share our story and talk to all of you. Thank you.
My name is Stacy Puckett. I am the Partnership Executive for Women in Motorsports North America. We are a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to furthering women in all areas of motorsports. So from engineering, race car driving, marketing, any portion of the sport, we will help you get connected and have a lot of resources to offer you.
All right, thank you. All right, the first question. And this is career focused, so think back when you started your career, you know, how did you pursue it, number one, and like where did you start? Like what was the inspiration that made you decide to get into this industry?
So I have a bit of an odd circuitous route to where I am now. My first degree was from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And I ended up working in advertising in Chicago, which was fine, but I wanted something else. I ended up buying a 65 Ford Fairlane 500 as my daily driver and started doing maintenance to that. That actually inspired me to look at other degrees. So I went back to school at the age of 28 and got a degree in automotive restoration. That led me to then a full ride scholarship from Daimler Chrysler, it was at the time, and an apprenticeship as a mechanic on the floor of the Mercedes-Benz Classic Center in Germany, working on vintage race cars and other cars. And through that, got into the high-end restoration world, and I've worked on, for example, a 1939 Mercedes-Benz Grand Prix car, which was like the space shuttle, of its time. 58 Ferrari 250 Testarossa that raced at Le Mans, Ferrari 166 Spider Corsa. So that I've always been a racing fan, but I come at it from a historical background. And through those projects, I was able to become friends with Lynn St. James, who is one of the co-founders of WIMNA and former IndyCar driver, IMSA driver, but she's also involved in vintage racing. And we became friends that way. And then I got acquainted with WIMNA and started working for them.
Thank you.
Okay, so I grew up in Puerto Rico, and race cars I know pretty much too much that you see over there. I decided that I wanted to become a mechanical engineer because I wanted to be the first female Puerto Rican astronaut in space. While I was doing that, I discovered FSAE, and I remember that I sent a message to FSAE about sending me rules about the Formula FSAE competition. Between 5 guys and myself, we founded the first team for the University of Puerto Rico and put a car together. That was, our first competition was in 1991. I competed for 4 years, 2 of them as a team captain, and after that as advisor to the team. I have been involved with the Formula FSAE competition since I was a student, and not only I work with them organizing the event, but also as the brake captain, fuel economy captain during the May event, and so on. While I was at Formula FSAE, I was discovered by a couple of engineers from General Motors, and they hired me in the Motorsports program. I started as a data acquisition engineer. After that, I had an opportunity to work many events from the NASCAR events, but also what we call today IMSA. My first race was the Daytona 24 hours. After that, I did drag racing, NHRA with GM, and after that, I went to the NASCAR program. 6.5 years ago, Hendrick Motorsports hired me to work on their department, to work on the simulation, to work also on tools to help our cars understanding data and to make them faster. And I have been, like I said, 6.5 years at Hendrick Motorsports. One of the things that I do, I am the director of what we call the war room or the command center. NASCAR has changed their rules, and not everybody is allowed to go to the track to work on the race team. So we have most of the engineers stay behind, and we pretty much help the crew chiefs and so on, providing them data and technical resources for them to call the races. Let me tell you, it's very interesting and it's amazing with many partners, and I see one of our partners here that has helped us to develop tools to make our cars faster. And if you know about Hendrick Motorsports, we are the winningest team from NASCAR, and we are leading first and second place right now, the championship. And we are looking forward to continue being successful. But again, it takes a lot of young people that we come here to recruit to help us continue getting much better with the technology that we are using.
Thank you.
So I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. Initially, I thought I would go into aerospace. It's big in my family, so I just thought that would be the way. But I found that to be fairly boring. And I discovered PACCAR, where I learned about the trucking industry, the automotive industry. I'm still learning about it on the job, and I love it. It's been great. I'm working on the testing of new battery electric powertrains. In my lab, we're building a simulation of the battery electric vehicles, and we're testing it as we're building it, developing our own tools. And it's been very exciting.
Thank you.
So for me, coming into technical recruiting, I had no idea that I was going to be doing this. So a little flashback, it was very early, like end of 2019, very early 2020, and I was entering the workforce, but we all know what happened in March of 2020. And I was always thinking about grad school at that point, but I really wanted to work a little bit more and get some more experience before I went back to school. Well, March of 2020 came around, I was baking in my apartment and I was bored, extremely bored. And so I was like, you know what, this is the time I'm gonna go to grad school. So I was working on my applications and I started and I went to, I attended Western Washington University. I did their MBA program and I started that in September of 2020 and I finished it in December of 2021. About October of 2021 was when I found out about my role at PACCAR. And I was like, ooh, I'm gonna interview for this. This seems like maybe something that I would be good at. It's like, I don't know anything about pistons, but here we are, right? And so I start going through the interview process and I'm like, okay, you know what? Even if I don't get the job, it'll be good experience. Interviewing is a whole separate skill set. It's something to practice. It's, you know, it can be kind of tricky. So I went through the interview process, but by the time I got to the on-site and I went, you know, I came on site to work and to interview, I was like, oh, I really want this job. And so then I got the job and I was so surprised and I was so excited. And then I remember my last week of grad school was quite literally my finals. And then I started my job and then I walked at my graduation that Saturday at grad school. And so then that following, you know, January, I came back and I started working. And I'm so lucky that I work with some amazing engineers that were so patient with me to help me learn everything. I was like, okay, this is the crash course of powertrain right now. Because as a technical recruiter, you do need to learn some of these things in order to, you know, understand what your teams are doing to better be able to find candidates and to be able to help your teams. So I'm still loving it. I'm about 2.5 years into my position at PACCAR and I'm having the most fun. This is probably one of my favorite parts of my job is coming to Formula. So it's been a wild ride and I'm excited to see what I do next.
Thank you.
Thanks. This is a tough act to follow, but okay. So I look at my career trajectory in 3 steps. Yeah. I wanted to have a career in science. I picked mechanical engineering because I absolutely sucked at biology and chemical engineering. And I was like, this is not going to work out, but I was good at physics and math. This could work out. And the second part of this is my decision to pursue automotive engineering and my master's. This turning point was Formula SAE. I was doing, you know, working through my degree and then Formula came along and I immediately knew that this is what I wanted to do. You can love cars and you can be an enthusiast, but then to actually see how it's made, how it's done, the kind of impact you can have. Yeah, you can see a Jeep Wagoneer or a GM truck go by and you're like, oh my God, I worked on this, yeah. So that was the second part and Formula played an incredible role there. And then my third step is why I came to Bosch, yeah. So when you do a master's in automotive, everybody's kind of like, oh, you can work with OEMs, which are like Ford, Chrysler, GM, you can go anywhere, which was great. But one of the big selling points for me for working for a supplier was that you can work with the same teams, but multiple companies at once, yeah. So over my career at Bosch, we worked with Stellantis, with GM, with Ford, with Mercedes, yeah, BMW, all of this. So this was kind of the trajectory. And I don't have a lot of personal stories. I mean, I do, but I don't want to take a lot of time and I will talk a lot. So, but yeah, this is essentially my trajectory.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my background is slightly different from the technical side. I went to school for fashion merchandising and business management. And I started my career in New York City working in fashion PR and later went into production because I wanted to learn about the global supply chain. And I was tired of just making big splashes for big brands that didn't have much of a call to action around the quality or around the progress of clothes or apparel. And I wanted that to have more value. So after 6 years in the fashion industry, I started to work with tech startups in New York. There's a wide range of global tech startups that have their first home base in New York City because of the workforce that's there. So I got to work with 3D printing technologies and manufacturing and first autonomous vehicles that there's a reserved space for in Brooklyn, New York, for us to test automated vehicles, unlike the West Coast, where they have a little bit more land to play with. So that really spurred my interest of how do I get into automotive, and specifically motorsports. I started a weekend job for a company called the Manhattan Classic Car Club, and I was able to drive 65 Mustangs, original Ford GT40s, some old Ferraris, and luxury vehicles, and kind of the whole mix. And through that, I found all-women's rally in Morocco that was my first job in motorsports. And it paid nearly nothing, but they paid for my travel, and it was my ticket into motorsports. So I took it, and I met women from around the world that got their companies to support them or their local families and just their local communities to help them get to Morocco and compete with 300 women from 30 different nations. And so that shows you the power of motorsports. And it's really wonderful to be here. This is my first formula competition I've been able to come to, and to have that same spirit of you're competing with people of competitive schools of different countries, and take that opportunity because that's the best part. So I found my current role at Bosch just about a year ago, and it's been amazing. One, to see the breadth of technology that Bosch provides, whether it's for your home appliances or for your vehicles. And then also within motorsports, our motorsports team has 6 different offices from Germany, Japan, France, UK, and North America. So just take this opportunity, and there's a lot of places you can go with it. And yeah, I'm really enjoying my ride at Bosch and to learn about more what everyone does. So.
All right, thank you. Well, you can see that there's definitely not a one-size-fits-all with this group. We all have different backgrounds. We all kind of got into the mobility industry a different way. Some of the business route, some from a engineering perspective. I know I also came from the business side, worked in marketing and communications and sales and service, and two stints in HR. So, whatever interests you, there's definitely a fit for everybody, just you can see by the diversity of this panel here today. I don't know if you guys want to pass the mic back this way. Yeah. So the next question is, was there a particular project or time in your career that you've been able to add a feminine touch to your team or a project?
I'm not sure I would have called it a feminine touch, but my boss at the restoration shop where I worked in Massachusetts hired me, and one of the reasons specifically was because I was a woman. I had been a senior project manager, and I had the technical knowledge to work with all of the mechanics and all the techs in the shop on a project. So I became the project manager for the entire restoration shop and did all of the communication between the different team members. And he told me he grew up with 3 sisters, and he said that women were better communicators than men, which is why he wanted a woman in that position. So, and I will say that after that experience, I think he's probably right. But it's also about teaching them how to communicate with each other. And I think, you know, I'm a talker and I like a good story and I'm willing to listen. And that's huge in this industry. And especially, you know, I'm working on vintage cars, but you need to listen to someone and understand what they're trying to get, whether or not that's a rare part, whether or not it's a piece that needs to get machined because it hasn't been made since 1950. You know, you need to be able to absorb all of that and communicate it back between different, you know, inside and outside vendors. So I would say communication probably.
And that's a very important one. There are many stories, but at the end of the day, you bring something, right? Because you think differently. And I think that what has worked for me has been to bring a different, I call it diversity of thought. Because due to your background, where you're coming from, you think different, right? And your background and where you grew up help you a lot. I remember when I was hired at Hendrick Motorsports, Mr. Hendrick said to me, one thing that I want that you help me is with communication. And I didn't understand what exactly he wanted to say that, but I understand more and more. But I think that one touch that we bring is also empathy on the way that we listen and work with others and understanding others. And I think that that's a tool that I didn't really realize what was that about when I started, but just by spending the time understanding where that thought came from, you know, and trying, you know, what we call empathy bottom line, it has helped me a lot to bring perhaps, you call it perhaps a female touch, but I just call it, it's just a diversity of thought. It's just to think very differently. I think about it, when I came to the sport, there were barely females in the sport. I was pretty much one or two Hispanics. And also, I was one of the first 2 or 3 engineers in the sport. So it's like everybody was waiting for me to fail, because I was bringing 3 different backgrounds that were not known to the sport at that specific moment. So I understood, okay, this is going to require, like, everything that you're doing, everybody's watching how you're doing, how you're going to, you know, to behave, and that will help to open other doors to others that come after you. But long story short, I think that good listener, communicator, and understanding where others are coming from is what has helped me to get to where I am today.
I would say something very similar to that. When I was hired into my group at PACCAR, I think I was the 4th woman in my department. And just bringing a different background, a different perspective. We've hired many more women since then. But it changes things, having different people and a little diversity.
I think you brought up a really good point about the empathy. I totally feel that, because we do bring a different perspective for these things. But for me, when I'm working with my teams, like, I'm so lucky because a lot of my engineers are like, you're part of our team. And it's funny because they joke how I have an honorary engineering degree is what we joke about. It's like a running joke at the office at this point. So I don't necessarily feel it on my day-to-day, which is amazing because I'm just part of the team. I'm doing my job. We're looking at filling gaps with our teams. We're looking at where's the business going to be in a year? Where's the business going to be in 2 years, 5 years, right? So I don't feel it like on a day-to-day basis, but I do feel like I can bring that empathy and a little bit of a different perspective to the engineering teams that I work with.
Brooke can answer for the both of us.
So this is, very similar. Being able to listen and think differently. I work on a team of primarily engineers, so I'm the only non-engineer. And so there's a lot of business topics that often it helps them to know the context of things. I realized that no one's explained the context to them before, or what's the business reason behind some of the decisions that we're asking the engineers to focus on different things at different times. And there's also been points of like consistency, and we all are somewhat creatures of habit. And so to remind the team, and even to remind our operation as we travel nationally together for 12 weeks a year, remember the sparkling water that people like, or remembering the cleanliness that my boss prefers, and to know that our partners and customers will come to us at specific times for specific things, and to have those ready and to have the forethought is something that I've been recognized for, and recognized more and more as just kind of that difference or diversity of thought. That's a strength of mine. So I've now gotten to the age where I know how to lean into those strengths as a woman, instead of seeing them as this is my kind of hindrance and this is my uniqueness to my own team. So that's my key focus.
Thank you. All right, it's going to get a little more intimate, personal here. Dicey, I don't know how you call it, but the next question is, how have you overcome an obstacle or bias as a woman in a male-dominated industry?
I'm happy to quickly just kick this off. My college job was working on the auto show. So I traveled around to all the different auto shows and was the product specialist that was next to the cars and answering questions. And with my team, I have never had certain problems. With some bosses, sometimes I've gently reminded them, would you say that to your daughter? And that normally gets the point across. But then with customers and the general public, it's been really nice that most people on my team, if there's technical or historical questions, they get directed back to me anyways, if someone tried to walk by me or dismiss me as something else. So that's where I actually asked a women panel a similar question a few weeks ago, and there was a driver on stage who just said, just beat them, just win. And so I would remind you all that same thing. Know your strengths, know what you're here there for, and don't lose that.
All right, so I will answer this one. So before we talk about my personal experiences or my advice here, I would like to maybe give one feedback to all the girls and women out here. Y'all are perhaps the minority in your team, one of 2 women, one of 4 women in the whole team, on the racetrack, in your university, in your classroom. Yeah. One thing to really, really remember, and this took a while for me to get to, is you do not have to stress about representing every woman, every minority. Yeah, not your task. You're here to build a car. You're here to become an engineer. You're here to become a communication specialist. What other people perceive of you, of your gender, of your identity is not your job. Yeah, this is the most important part. If that's the one message you can get. Yeah, so this is kind of where the bias starts to impact you. We have implicit biases. We're in an industry that has not seen this kind of representation ever, right? You are going to meet people who don't know how to react or communicate with you. You are going to meet people who are going to expect you to be the best at everything, and that is also not enough. It took me a while. Yeah, am still working through it. Yeah, always under the pressure of being really good technically to have that credibility. This is the big part. You always think about, if I have credibility, if I am the best mechanical engineer on the team, the best driver on the team, then they'll respect me, they'll respect women, and they'll stop this. They won't. It's not our task. Yeah, this is critical. Took me a while. For me, the bias and the fact that I can pick up on cues, it's not the best thing. So I struggled with this quite a lot. Every comment, every feedback kind of affected me. But once I started to recognize that it's just that feedback, take feedback and it's fine. Don't try to go above and beyond your goals for others' perception. Yeah, this is the tricky part. So for me, this was challenging. I've had good experiences, bad experiences. So this is one part that you don't have to care, and you have to keep on doing what you want to do. But the second big part is what helped me is allies. Yeah, it helped me that my colleague interrupted somebody in the meeting to say she was talking, right? So this is not my job only to protect myself and to make sure that I do well. So if you are not a woman in this industry, if you're not a minority in this industry, there's responsibility for you also. Yeah, give visibility, push the people ahead, interrupt others, tell other people that was messed up, right? Do this. I do this now, and I think I have some seniority where people are like, okay, well, we cannot give her any negative feedback just because she told me to keep quiet in a meeting. Yeah, that won't happen when you're early in your career. People will do this. So, yeah, so
use your voice is what you're saying.
A lot of personal experiences, good and bad and ugly, but I have a lot of work to do.
Doing good.
So a couple things I think from for on this topic for me. So I think for when the advice that I would give to the ladies, and I like what you said, and kind of bouncing off of that a little bit, is that ladies, get so confident in who you are as a person that you know yourself, that when this stuff kind of comes at you, you're like, it's not personal. I'm not the opinion of somebody who doesn't know me and care about me and love me. It's like I talked to my parents about this stuff. I was like, that's my mom and dad, right? That's my brother right there. So my family, so those are different people, right? So you are not the opinion of somebody who doesn't know you or love you and care about you. So, and also that kind of comes with an internal journey too, that you kind of need to do a little bit and to be so confident in who you are. Like, I know myself. And so when, somebody's kind of, if somebody's doing something like that to me, it doesn't rattle me anymore. Like, I'm like, this is not who I am. I know that I'm good at what I do, and I'm always learning at what I do. And I'm so lucky to work with the engineers that I do, because not a single engineer, when I came into this job, like, as I said earlier, like, I didn't know that much about trucks. I didn't know that much about engines or anything. And I was starting to do some pretty serious recruiting for our engine program, because diesel is still a really big part of our business, especially when you start talking about Class 8, like long haul trucking, things like that. And I was not afraid to go and ask those questions, and my engineers were so fantastic because they never made me feel like stupid or dumb or anything that I was asking maybe what was an obvious question to them, but wasn't obvious to me, right? So I was like, oh my gosh. And so, 2.5 years later I'm still being like, wow, I've learned ridiculous amount about, powertrains and engines and all this kind of stuff. So I would say, first part, be really confident who you are, learn as much as you can about yourself. And of course, that's a journey that's going to continue as you get older. That is one of the beautiful things about age, is that you get older and wiser and you have more experience. So this is a constant thing, but you don't have to take everything personally. Once you learn that it's not really so much personal, it's more of a reflection on them than it is on you, then you really start to take things a lot less, and it just kind of bounces off of you at some point. So I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Susanna. A lot of what I've experienced has been like totally supportive, not feeling like I was treated any differently. And I think having that confidence that that is how I will be treated, and not maybe expecting something different based on like older generations, and just going in and not expecting that, and just being confident has really helped.
All of you are amazing, okay? All of you are amazing. Unfortunately, I have lived a lot of that, a lot of that. And I have a funny story here in Michigan some years ago. I was here in a NASCAR race, and we were in the hauler working. And this gentleman, I don't know the details, how he was in the hauler. But he started to ask each one of the young men about, hey, where do you go to school? What do you do for the team? Oh, everything. When he goes to me, he said, you must be the PR girl. That's what he just said to me. Didn't even give me the courtesy to ask backgrounds or anything. That was what he just said. Interesting enough, the 4 guys that were there with me, they just came to my defense. And I said, guys, you don't have to do that. You know, they don't have to do that. But they said, no, that's our boss, by the way. And he didn't even care. He just continued talking to the guys, you know. So I have learned to live with that. But I shouldn't. But I shouldn't. I don't think that that's the right thing. But I like you said, I really felt bad for the person that even think like that. I have been in places where I was not allowed to enter the track because they thought that you're not really going to work. You're just going to get an autograph or, you know, something like that. So the way that I grew up, it was about work hard, do your job, and your actions will speak about you. The people that knows me know my work ethic, knows how hard I work. But I really believe, the strength of a team, once again, is about diversity. If we all have the same backgrounds and we all come from the same experiences, our industries are not going to grow. So different thoughts are important to continue getting better, and doing events like this help to educate. I love all the men that are here watching all of this and learning and so on, what WIMNA is doing, what Formula FSAE, what all our companies, are doing to educate about the importance of females, but, any background to do what we're doing. But sadly, I continue seeing it. But it's just about education, and I will never get tired of doing that, to educate. So,
thank you.
I agree with what everyone has said, and one of the things that I have learned in the vintage car world, of which I am still often the only woman, I love coming to the more modern stuff because there's so many more women, it's amazing, is that if I'm confident that I'm doing the best I can do, then that goes a long way. I mean, that shows whatever team I'm working with that I'm right there with them, and that I'm working as hard as they are, and that will earn you a lot of respect. I never think about the fact that I'm the only woman, if I am, or one of a few, because I figure, if I'm working as hard as everyone else, then that proves to myself and them that I'm a worthy part of that team. And I will say that working the apprenticeship that I did in Germany was an eye-opener for me, because I actually got more grief in the States than I did in Germany, because in Germany they were used to apprentices, and that's all I was. I wasn't a woman, I was an apprentice. They treated me exactly the same as they did the male apprentices that came through the shop, so I got all the same crap, good and bad, that the guys did. And I was thrilled that that was the case. I wanted to be just another person in that shop. But I will also say that I took advantage of the fact that I was a tiny little skinny cute girl at the time, and I asked as many questions as I possibly could, because they were so excited to teach someone who was kind of new to the world of vintage cars and Mercedes everything that they knew. So, it doesn't have to be a disadvantage. If anything, it can be an advantage.
Thank you guys for sharing. That was awesome. I can relate to a lot of your stories. I think we really came a long way. My career spanned many decades, and we have came a long way. So much that when I go to all the recruiting events, it's amazing. Like, engineers will come up to me and just start talking about all their technical projects and the things that they're working on, and assuming that I'm an engineer, and I'm like, well, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm not an engineer. I just know enough to be dangerous. And but they don't make those assumptions or those biases as much as they used to do 20, 30 years ago, where it's just like, well, go get the guy that knows about this stuff. I want to talk to him. So thank you for guys for being a little vulnerable there. The next question is, what do you think are the most important skills or traits for success in your field, and how have you developed these skills over time?
That's a tough one. I think always being open to new things has been a huge part of my success, and not deciding that there's only one path that I'm going to take. I never would have imagined when I was going to art school that I was going to end up learning how to restore classic cars and working for Mercedes in Germany. So I think that if you can study mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, anything, sciences, but leaving yourself open to possibilities is going to further your career more than anything else, because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know what product's going to come down the road that you're going to end up wanting to work on. And if you just decide from day one that this is the only way for me, then you're going to miss out on a lot of fun stuff. So I think being open to the world and, what jobs are out there is probably the biggest thing that I would advise for people.
Everything that she just said, okay? No, I will also add doing change. You perhaps thought about this is what you wanted to do, and something else happened. You need to be very open to that. From my side also, there's no I in team. It takes every single person to win. Think about it, in my sport, only one person wins and 39 lose. So you can, you have to switch your mind about, okay, what do we need to do to get better? It's about what do we need to do to get better. And the same here at Formula SAE. If something doesn't work, okay, let's regroup, let's work to make sure that we do it better the next time. And so on. And trust me, from the Formula SAE side, we can talk like the whole day about things. But at the end of the day, don't give up, teamwork and so on. And one last one that I will tell you, be sure to be present and to be in the moment. So you are here right now, make sure that your head are in the same place where your feet are. I learned that from a football coach. It's about being present, put your energies on what you're doing right now. When you get out of here, you work on the next thing. But that has helped me in my career, and there's still a lot that I want to do and enjoy every single day, because you never know. Thank you.
I would say the most important skill is ability to learn. What you learn in school is important, but a recurring conversation I have with many colleagues is how little we actually use at our jobs. And you will also need to learn things that you've never done before in school or otherwise. So I guess back to confidence, that's important. Being confident and willing to learn, that combination will set you pretty well.
I would totally echo all of these things that are being said, but I also think that kind of being able to pivot and really thinking on your feet, because as we know, Murphy's Law, if things can go wrong, it will. So kind of being able to think on your feet and saying, okay, well, this is not, the planning for this is not working out the way that I wanted to. How do I, kind of keep a cool head and really problem solve through it, instead of, a lot of times these situations can get really stressful and it's like really easy to kind of get into a panic a little bit. But I always kind of stop myself and be like, okay, take a deep breath. How do we solve this? What's the best way we can do? And be like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this instead. To kind of pivot through that. I think that is a really powerful thing to be able to do.
So my personal answer is that I learned skills by basically getting thrown into programs, and you ask questions, you don't feel like you're dumb for asking questions. Nobody cares, nobody's judging you. So that's the biggest. But for students who are going to pursue a career in the automotive industry, from a skills perspective, maybe I say a couple of things, yeah. The automotive industry is going through a shift. Maybe not right now, maybe not tomorrow, but it is going to go through a change organically. Yeah, we look at markets and we think, okay, well, this isn't taking off or that isn't taking off, but what you will do will impact what will take off. So think not only about a car, and this is the thing, we don't have the luxury of thinking about just the car. When I was doing calibration, I only cared about my car, my components, my system, my subsystems. Now you have to think about the car, you have to think about the infrastructure, you have to think about the energy system that comes through. So right from what fuel your vehicle can use to what infrastructure is needed to make that car work in the Midwest, in California, in Texas, all of these things are an engineer's job. It's no longer just, I know how to calibrate this part and this is what I'm going to do, right? So think about careers not only in the automotive industry, think about careers in the energy industry, and think about careers in the power systems engineering industry. This is all going to help you. Do not box yourself as a car person. Yeah, we could do it. We had the luxury. I could tell everybody I love cars. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. One of my colleagues, his family had a motorcycle company, and he was like, if we stop making like internal combustion engines, my company will just shut down. We won't even, like it could happen. But of course, they're all going to have to go through the transformation. So think about all options, yeah. Go with the best pay, go with the best benefits, and go with the best opportunity for you, not the best brand all the time, yeah. Was this not an advertisement for Bosch?
Careers, Bosch.com.
We do nice things. We do nice things. This.
I'll keep this short because I know we're running a little bit behind, but my main skill that I will always go back to is resilience and be scrappy. Like just like you are now, you're going to have to do that for the rest of your life. And things are crazy now, but things will continue to move fast. The industry will continue to change. And be intentional about what you're learning and about what you want to do. Because there will be times when things have a lot of value. There will have times when they have less value. But if you are consistent and know why you're a part of something, why you want to educate yourself, why you love binging YouTube on a certain topic or whatever it might be, just be intentional and continue to be creative and resilient in your career, because the world won't be as it is now for 5-10 years, then it'll continue to shift. So.
And just lastly, from a career perspective or HR perspective, I get asked all the time, like, how do I set myself apart from all the other candidates? And I would just say 3 things. Make sure you be yourself, be your genuine self. Don't change your resume just to fit a job, but bring out the attributes that you have for that particular job. Try to do an internship if you can. I know from a Bosch perspective, we count that experience as experience. So if you're looking for jobs that say 2 to 3 years experience, Formula SAE definitely counts as experience because you guys are doing real life job on your teams at this point. So that counts as experience. So you're already experientially learning in what you're doing. And network. And coming to things like this, meeting great people in industry is the best way that you're going to be able to find that job, not just by throwing your resume out there to a million companies. Like really decide on the things that what are important to you, like Brooke said, and then just also just target it. LinkedIn is your friend. Make sure you've got your profile updated. Update it often, so it's just at a drop of a hat, you're ready to go if an opportunity, presents itself to you. So, great. Well, thank you guys for that awesome panel. We're going to open it up now to the audience. And Tracy, go ahead and take a microphone. And if you have a question, just raise your hand. If you wanted to say what team you're from or what state.
Hi, my name's Teresa. I'm from Northeastern University. First off, I want to thank you all for being here and sharing your experiences. It's very inspiring to see successful women in the industry. I'm the head of operations on our team, so I'm not from an engineering background, and I have found it difficult to find entry-level opportunities in the industry that aren't engineering or marketing. What are some steps in the right direction that I can take pursuing, entry-level positions within the industry in the operations realm? I think I think Brooke's the person to answer this. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
So the operations will look different in different places, and I would suggest if there's parts of your job right now that you love and enjoy, like see how you can match those elsewhere in the world, or maybe find an adjacent industry or something else. I love tech startups because they're quick and dirty, and they will show you what you're made out of. And it'll also give you great experience. You won't have benefits, but you will have some benefits, but they're not the traditional ones. So get a wide range of experience. Even if you don't like a job, I also recommend sticking that out for a year and getting out the door. but do the best that you can. Give yourself that year to learn what you can and then move on. So I would just say fill your tool belt with as many skills as you can and make that operations role what you want it to be. And once you find that company and those allies as you network, you'll find the right job. So,
Who else has a question?
Hi, yeah. My name's Emily. I'm with Oregon State University, GFR. I work on suspension and I designed the air arms on our car this year. I wanted to ask, how do you guys keep up stamina when you're kind of in a workplace where you kind of feel like you don't belong? I think we've ran into problems, not that anything's intentional to be mean, but people kind of forget. And so it's kind of hard to have the want or have the intentions to keep going if you feel like you're just being put down all the time.
Yeah, so it really comes back to the one thing, and it's going to be a bit of a process, Emily. I'll tell you this, it's not going to be easy. You have finite amount of energy, right? This is the big part. You have the same amount of energy that any other person in your team has. You're a woman, that's fine, but you have a task, you have the same amount of hours, and you have the same amount of time. If you keep thinking about every idiot and every comment, you are going to burn out. Yeah, I have no time. So this is another part. Yeah, the worse they are themselves or the more insecure they are, they will judge you more. It's really easy for me to say. It's tough for you when they're your friends, people you care about. I see this. But if you keep thinking about what every person thinks and says, you're never going to be able to design a suspension. You have no time for this, right? And you have to at some point be like, you know what? Screw this. Yeah, I have work to do. Keep that thought, and then you'll keep your motivation, because you did not sign up for Formula SAE to prove yourself. You signed up because you want to do this. That's exactly how it's going to be when you take a job. You're here to do the job. Yeah, you're not here to get you're not here to get an opinion about yourself from everybody. This is the clearest feedback I can give. It's going to be hard. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. You're going to hate yourself. You're going to be like, I don't want to have dinner. I hate this. I don't want to be part of this team. I've been through all those stages of grief. So, but you have to think that you have no time for all idiots. Yeah. So
just really quick. This will get easier for you as time goes on. As you get older, you will care less and less what people think. And by the time you're like much older, you're going to be like, no one was thinking about me anyway. So just like nobody cares what, you know. So I would say it gets easier as time goes on because you're going to be more confident in yourself. Kind of going back to what I said earlier about that confidence. It will get easier as time goes by because you're going to know yourself better. And you're going to be able to just kind of like deflect that kind of stuff and not really take it so personally. I know it's really hard when you're young, you take everything personally. I remember like working retail when I was like 18 in college, like just starting my bachelor's degree, and I just took everything so personally, and now I'm like, I don't care. So it gets easier as time goes by.
You first.
I was just going to add to that, imposter syndrome is a real thing. You know, it's like as you get older, it seems that voice goes away.
Hi, I'm Gabby. Oh, sorry. Oh, continue.
No, that's okay. I just want to add one thing into that. I would also do something fun. You know, when you're not doing your FSAE stuff, like you're in Oregon, I know several race teams out there that are racing at the local speedway that would love to have a spare mechanic or someone come in. Like, add in some fun stuff for yourself on the side where you're getting that experience as well. It'll boost your confidence. They will love having the help. And you can go back to your team and be like, yeah, we won this weekend because, you know, I adjusted the suspension good on the track and we beat everybody else. You know, there's always little things you can do for yourself to make it more fun.
So yeah, hi, I'm Gabby from the University of Maryland. And so my main question comes as to like researching information for yourself, because I know a lot of times how we learn, at least in FSAE, is asking like the seniors or the people above us how to do things, but sometimes you kind of start feeling like a burden. So it's like, what are your favorite ways of finding information or researching on your own? Because I know that's also an important skill to get.
So it really depends on the subject, but one thing that I found really helpful when I was doing my master's or Formula SAE also was go through research papers. You don't have to understand everything. This is nobody except the person that wrote the paper understands everything, and even they maybe don't, yeah, because they wrote 50% of that paper, right? So look at research that might be 5 years ahead, 6 years ahead. You might not understand everything, but it gives you keywords to then go back and look for simpler concepts then, yeah? So if you're, for example, looking for engine calibration, or in your case, if you're looking for battery storage calibration, you can look at papers that talk about battery storage. Battery chemistry is not interesting to you. You just want to know what voltage to set it or whatever values you want to put. Then you have the keywords. You're like, okay, I quickly scan this. Now I can check what it takes or what's the range factor or whatever capacity factor, right? Yeah. So find keywords like this. This has helped me.
Yeah. Also, going back to LinkedIn, rely on the fact that you're in college and that you're new in your career. I used this until I was about 25 years old. And find third degree contacts of, you know, you want, go to the moon and see what third degree contacts could potentially get you an introduction, or start reaching out to them, because those people who are successful at being an expert, they're a subject matter expert in suspension and aerodynamics and whatever it might be, they will love to talk to you. My first thought that comes to my mind is like Laura Klauser, the head of motorsport programs for GM. I might have got that title wrong, but she has her own website so that she can field those type of questions and welcome them in. So be creative like that. Find those contacts. I'm sure professors' contacts are always public. So even from competitor colleges, I would start reaching out like that also.
So you said that you're in Maryland, right? Yeah. But also the local race teams. I will tell you, many of the race teams that are in the Carolinas, Georgia, and so on, they call the NASCAR teams and ask, hey, can I talk to an expert about something? And you don't even have to be from that section. We can talk. Call us, you know. We have so many people that have done the program that want to give back. And a way to give back, right, aside of what they have mentioned that is perfect, but also there's a lot of expertise out there. We are more than happy to help. It's about thinking out of the box, right? Thinking out of the box.
Yeah, I just want to add to that and say that, you know, the worst someone can say is no. So it's always worth the ask. That's one piece of advice I will always give is just ask. Don't be afraid to ask. There's never a stupid question. Doesn't matter what you want to know. If you ask someone, there's someone out there who will eventually answer your question. So don't be afraid to do that.
Hi, my name is Megan. I'm from Western Washington University. A couple of you have talked about allyship and the good experiences that you've had, whether that's in your jobs or on teams. Can you give a few examples specifically for our male cohorts in the room today of what are things that you have experienced from them that were positive, that ways that they can build in their allyship, and some tangible examples? Because I feel it's often they get the do better, be better, same as women get, and often that tangibility is really hard. So when you've all talked about that, it's been really inspiring, and can you give a few examples?
I have an example. Actually, I was presenting a 1954 Mercedes 375 Ferrari at a concours. There was a seminar prior to the event. We had, this was a preservation car, meaning that it was never completely restored. The engine was never rebuilt. So we got the engine up and running, the car up and running, but we had to document every single thing that had happened to that car. When the engine bay got painted black, when the Pininfarina badge fell off of it. And if you don't document all those things, then you're not going to win at the concours. So I was giving a presentation on how we did that. And at the end of the presentation, they thanked my boss, who was the owner of the shop, and then they gave the microphone to him for questions. Well, every question, he would then look at me, and I would tell him the answer. And finally, he just handed me the microphone and was like, you should be asking her. And that was huge because he was right. I was the one who had done all the work, but no one wanted to ask me the questions. But that gesture that he made was huge. So, you know, showing that, like, no, just because he owned the shop didn't mean he actually did everything or knew about the car was massive. So just stuff like that goes a long way.
All right. So sorry, guys. So for me, I have a good story. When I was first starting to really work in the global engine space at PACCAR, I met a principal engineer at our division. His name is Dr. Steve Ciotti, and he is the most technical, patient human being that I've ever met. And I had such good experiences with him because I would sit in his office for 45 minutes every single week, and we would cover a different technical topic together. He literally would block out time in his calendar to teach me about engines. And I was like, bless you, like, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. And he was also previously a professor, so he was very good at teaching. And so he was able to, teach it to me in a way that I could understand and everything. And I was like, holy smokes, I can't believe I learned this today, right? We still do that. It's been months. We started this process last year, and now it's not so formal, I would say, but now it's more just I swing by his office. I'm like, hey, I have a question for you. And you got this massive whiteboard in his office and just starts drawing pictures for me because I'm a visual learner. So I learn things by seeing. And so he'll draw pictures for me and explain something to me if it's in 15, 20 minutes. And so that's been such a positive experience for me. Especially, and it's so wonderful, and I definitely feel, he's in my corner for sure, and really rooting for me as I do this job. So it's been so great.
Maybe I give a smaller example and then maybe bigger philosophical example. So small things you can do if you want to be an ally. Do not interrupt anybody, but do not interrupt women also when they're speaking. Do not think that you can interrupt because their voices are not as strong or as high. Yeah. Always observe what kind of impression other people are making. For example, if somebody makes a comment that is clearly not okay, call it out in that moment. Nobody is going to say anything to you for calling out, but if another woman calls it out, or if the person who you've directed this comment to calls it out, they might get, oh yeah, she's being difficult and this is just a joke, you can take a joke. Yeah. So make sure that you are calling out stuff when you see it. Yeah. When you see this, let everybody know that this behavior is not okay. Fortunately for us, at Bosch, we have this mix of every culture in the world, mainly European, German culture, and so we're direct, and we're sometimes too direct, and so that can be perceived as being impolite too. So understand that difference, and if you're an ally, be like, he didn't mean this, he's just German, yeah, this is also okay. But try to be there and observe. This is the most important part. And trust me, people around you will notice it. I still remember one of my colleagues telling one person to, what were you saying? After that person finished like talking over me, he was like, okay, what were you saying? Right? And that was just so incredible for me. I'll never forget the colleague, right? This gives me a good example too. So look at the smaller opportunities. It's not a lot of burden. It's not a lot of work. It's you anyhow call bullshit. Do it for people. Yeah.
I would also say really as quick as I can, if there's some people that you feel safe with in your organization, sit them down and be like, look, I'm trying to do better in my job by X. I'm trying to get, the understanding of this. And I feel like I'm being literally pushed out of the team because I'm the only girl. And so you don't know. Yeah. So I'd let them know that you're trying to be that intentional and that you have this objective and you're like, I can do this, but you keep, just by the nature of the huddle, pushing me out. And next time or whenever that huddle comes back around, look around and make sure that that whole team is there. Because sometimes it's just awareness. And we also have to level with, like, we're not aware sometimes of how the men in our life also are working through something. So be intentional, try to sit down when you have a quiet time, or I would also encourage you to have retrospectives with your team after every large event and give yourself that open, safe space. So.
Hi, I'm Abriana Watson. I'm from Kennesaw State University. I do manufacturing for the team. A big thing that I've run into is I know you've talked about how when you get shut down, not trying to take that personally, but if you're getting shut down or your question is dismissed, how do you approach still trying to get the answers that you need out of that person or out of that group of people? Because it's hard to keep pushing and not almost be pushy, I guess.
Be pushy. You have a job to do. Again, it's not your task to deal with other people's emotions all the time because you're sensitive to them. Yeah? Be pushy. It's okay. Escalate. In your team, if you have a team captain, escalate. I'm not getting the answer. Make sure that you get the answer you need respectfully. Yeah, you don't have to fight. You don't have to think that this is a personal attack. It's fine, but the job has to be done, and make sure that there are people who can get through to them. This is a common goal. Yeah. Everybody had the same answer. Be pushy.
I'm going to say something here. It's still very sad that in 2024, we're still having those issues. And I am so happy that you're bringing the issue. But the questions pretty much have been have been roughly the same. So what can we do to educate others that what you have to bring is as important? Okay, and perhaps, how we here can help, how our industries can help you, and can help to educate others about the importance. Because I agree with them, what you have to do and say is extremely important. You are a part of a team, right? And you want to grow, and you want to do your best. And yes, I agree with her, be pushy, okay? I have had to do that many times just to get to where I need to be or be heard, right? That's not my style, that's not what I prefer to do. But at the end of the day, you want to grow, you want to be successful. And again, allies are extremely important, very, very important. Find those allies in your team that are going to help you to get there. But I admire what each one of you are doing, and we are here to support you to grow, okay? To grow. You are not doing this by yourself. We are here to support you.
One thing I would like to say too is that don't fault yourself for getting upset when that happens, because it hurts, even if you don't show it. And I can tell you that there were times when I was like in the bathroom crying because somebody like really said something that I was just like, oh my God. But I didn't want to show the team that I was working with how much it upset me. But it's okay. I know some of the guys I worked with that got upset over things that were said to them. So it's okay to be upset, whether or not you show it to the team or not. You can go behind and punch something and then come back out and get your question answered. But yeah, it's not a bad thing.
All right, we're going to take one more question. I just want to remind everybody, we'll be here after the session closes. If you have additional questions to answer, ask anybody here. And then we're going to give you guys a little bit of time to talk about the last slide that's here.
All right. Hi, I'm Kat. I was previously on the Columbia team as their chief engineer, and currently I'm on the UIUC team, just kind of as a helpful grad student, also working on chassis. And my question was more related to like team culture. For the most part, Columbia, I never had any issues with team culture. We were pretty diverse country-wise and gender-wise, but at UIUC, I've definitely found that it's significantly more difficult to kind of get that. So I was kind of wondering what could be some ways that I could maybe help shift that culture to encourage more people to join, because sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating.
That's a fantastic question. You are helping to change the culture. You are an example. There are other females that are seeing what you are doing. You are helping. So we need to get another ones like you, right? To continue helping with that. Also, keep going back. Look at the allies around you. Again, I don't know, the director of the department, other allies that, perhaps the male students can see, hey, this is okay. Perhaps they don't feel comfortable doing it. But trust me, you're being an agent of change, okay? It's not going to change that quick, sadly, but continue and inspire the other ones around you to continue doing it. But again, remember one thing, you cannot do everything by yourself. You need allies around you. Look for those allies, okay?
It is extremely difficult to make a car team not be about car culture. It's very difficult to pull people away from it. I was guilty of this. I didn't care about events. I didn't care about dress, whatever. I didn't care about parties. I just wanted to get the work done. And so I think one good thing is find a way to get through them through common activities. For example, it has helped in the past if you have industry folks speak in a workshop, so they will talk about technical stuff, so that's the hook, you got them in, but they will also talk about careers, personal lives, what they want to be, what are their hopes and dreams. So have these informal sessions where you're at, you're in UIUC. Chicagoland area is filled with automotive industries. Bosch has a presence there. All the OEMs do. Reach out to your sponsors, reach out to your department heads, find industry folks to come in and talk. And you don't have to do this. Find somebody else to help you. Yeah, this is I'm just saying the team has to do this. They'll talk about technical stuff. They'll give you advice. They'll give you news. It'll be fun. Yeah. So this is an example. Try to think about mentors. Maybe that will help. So if you talk to somebody that's much older, that is established, they can give you, hey, don't take everything seriously kind of an answer. There's been some success with car type events in the past in my university, but that's dependent on the crowd and what stage of panic they're in before the competition. Yeah. So.
Something to note in your small circles of influence, consider it such. Like, you have a small circle that you can influence right now, but when you go out into the world, there will be a much larger circle of influence that you are a part of. And be empowered by that. And also think outside of the box. Read books like The Power of Influence or Getting to Yes. Because that type of negotiation, no matter what career you have, will help you. And when you're at this point in college, in my experience, I found that women are much better at having like foresight and strategically aligning things. So if you have an iron block on your team that is preventing this change, get to know that person and get to know who they respect. Because guess what you can do? Go to whoever they respect, because you're a little bit more rare than that blockhead is. You have a little bit more power and you have a little bit more gusto to come into this world and want to be that agent of change. And bring their mentors in as now your ally. Because guess what? Then that blockhead has to agree with you and has to give you that level of respect. It takes time, but keep your enemies close. There's a reason that is a thing. So I would encourage you, I know it's painful, but think ahead of them more than they think. They're just trying to make you feel uncomfortable, but you can think 10x farther from where they are.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs podcast. Show notes for this episode can be found at beyondthecompetition.fireside.fm. Remember, stay tuned for updates on your competition's newsfeed or app, and follow SAE_University Programs on TikTok and Instagram. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next episode. Thank you for listening.